Good morning, everybody. Just morning, just 5 to midday. Dogs are being walked fast asleep. Bless him. And her, I don't know where she is. But, they're fast asleep. But it adds to the atmosphere. I remember when the dude's auntie's got a couple of big dogs, and they would be regularly barking. And of course, often right on cue, you'd hear the train going past, which was really good. Get on the train. Is a Stacy Seabrook classic. If you haven't done already, if you're new to Making a Murderer and you haven't come across Stacy Seabrook, then please do check him out. It's the first one I ever heard of him, and it's still my favorite. Don't Get Strange. And bizarrely, I said to Stacy, obviously in Australia, how much, but before Australia, how much I liked that particular tune, and it was, Chuck giving Steve some advice. And he said, no, it was Alan. I said, no, if you follow it carefully, if you watch that bit, the voices are very similar. And it's Dolores speaking to Steve, and then it's actually Chuck. But anyway, so yeah, I might just, soon as well, I'm sure we have got new listeners. I will put the link to Stacy Seabrook. Stacy Seabrook sings songs about the case, and they're absolutely brilliant, and they really do go into the depths of the case. He's even done one about Ken Kratz, which is absolutely brilliant. Anyway, we're going to carry on with the next 6 articles from the Wisconsin Law Journal. And I must just get them set up ready. Yeah, I think that one's ready to go. So we'll do this. We'll do that. We'll do share screen. DA wants harassment. Some of these are very, very short. One of them is actually not to do with Ken Kratz, but it's to do with Stephen Avery. But it comes under the Ken Kratz file. Once again, apologies. There he is again. Former DA Kratz wants harassment suit thrown out. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Associated Press. Former Calumet County District Attorney Ken Rapist Kratz is asking that a federal sexual harassment lawsuit against him be thrown out. As we know, it just like in Steve's case, it went from the state doing bugger all about it because it would reflect badly on them to letting him sink by himself under a civil lawsuit. Stephanie Van Groll is suing Ken Kratz for sending racy text messages while he prosecuted her ex-boyfriend for domestic abuse, and we don't mean racy as in Speedway. In a response to the lawsuit filed in federal court in Green Bay, Kratz argues it should be dismissed because he did not violate Van Groll's constitutional rights. He said his initial intention in contacting her was to offer further assistance in regard to the case and try to build her up and make her feel better. Well, that didn't work, did it, Kratz, eh? You freaked her out. You pervert. Van Groll said Kratz sent her 30 text messages in the space of less than 3 days, urging her to enter into a secret sexual relationship with him. WLUK TV said the State Office of Lawyer Regulation, so the Office of Lawyer Regulation, continues its investigation of Kratz, but they like to drag their feet, do the OLR. Next. Get the next one up. So things are starting to develop. In as much as our next one is a bill that would let crime victims sue officials. Madison, Wisconsin. Crime victims could sue public officials who harass them under a bill Republican lawmakers have introduced in hopes of discouraging prosecutors and police from using, should we say, abusing their positions to take advantage of vulnerable victims. The measure comes in response to the sordid, I like that word, that is absolutely spot on, the sordid tale of former Calumet County District Attorney Ken Rapist Kratz, who resigned from office nearly a year ago after the Associated Press reported he sent more than 24 text messages to a domestic, you missed out the word racy, to a domestic abuse victim trying to spark an affair while he prosecuted her ex-boyfriend. You would hope legislation protecting crime victims' rights would be unnecessary. Senator Van Rangard, Republican from Racine, one of the bill's authors, told the State Assembly's Criminal Justice Committee during a public hearing on the bill Thursday. Quote, unfortunately, that's not the case. The Wisconsin Constitution already calls for the state to treat crime victims with fairness, dignity, and respect for their privacy. And bizarrely, the Crime Victims' Rights Board has the power to investigate and sanction public officials who violate victims' rights. But the bill's chief sponsor in the Assembly, Republican Andre Jacques, Republican from Bellevue, told the committee a 2005 state Supreme Court decision found the constitutional language amounted to a policy statement and doesn't create enforceable rights for victims. He said the loophole came to his attention when Kratz avoided any criminal charges, as well as any reprimand from the victims board, which Kratz himself led. He was the chairman until he stepped down as chairman in December 2009 in the wake of the sexting allegations. Under the bill, public officials, employees, and agencies would have to treat crime victims fairly, with dignity and with respect for their privacy. No public official, employee, or agency could use a victim's personal information to obtain a personal benefit or financial gain. The language would give victims the ability to bring lawsuits if they felt those rights were violated without waiting for the victims board to take action. This change will enshrine in statute the protections contained in the Wisconsin Constitution, Jack said in a written testimony submitted to the committee. Do you not think, though, that really there's already laws in place, and it's up to the people higher up the food chain to decide what they want to do? If they want to try and avoid Kratz getting into trouble, they will just hide behind whatever garbage they want. As we're seeing with, Kathleen Zellner trying to get just an evidentiary hearing into these amazing things that she's discovered, and they're blocking. Anyway, we're digressing. Kratz resigned from his $105,000 position and £350,000 house, and the title of being the prize in October 20, the prize, something certainly, 2010, after the Ryan Foley of the Associated Press reported he had sent 30, I'll like it again, racy text messages over 3 days a year earlier to 26-year-old Stephanie Van Gogh. Kratz, who was 50 at the time. I mean, Stephanie is, Kratz, you're sick. She's young enough to be your daughter. Wanted Van Gogh to start a relationship with me, calling her a hot nymph with a great body. At the same time, Kratz was prosecuting Van Gogh's ex-boyfriend on charges he tried to strangle Van Gogh. You were trying to stuff the boyfriend in two cases, weren't you? Van Gogh complained to police, and Kratz was removed from her ex-boyfriend's case. The State Justice Department investigated, but decided not to file charges, telling Kratz instead to report the text messages to the Office of Lawyer Regulation, which reviews attorney conduct. That office declined to discipline Kratz, saying he didn't violate any rules. The Victims Board faced intense questions about why it didn't discipline Kratz. The former prosecutor said he described the Van Gogh messages candidly to the board when he resigned from the chairmanship in December 2009. But board members said he was vague and they never received a complaint from an involved party. Yeah, he really did try and cover up what he'd said, what he'd sent, until all of a sudden it all came out. He was hoping to brush it under the carpet. After the text messages became public, then Governor Jim Doyle began a process to remove Kratz from office, but Kratz quit before the process was complete. Other women started to come forward with stories similar to Van Grol's, alleging Kratz sexually harassed them too. The Justice Department and the OLR reopened their investigations. The DOJ concluded in March that Kratz hadn't committed any criminal violations. The OLR probe continues. Van Grol has filed a lawsuit in federal court against Kratz. That case is ongoing. Kratz's attorney didn't immediately return a message Thursday. Margaret Severson, 35, of Appleton, you're living dangerously right next, that's where Kratz lives, or used to, until he moved out, told the Assembly committee she was among the first to file the complaints Doyle needed to begin the removal process against Kratz. This is music to my ears. Kratz always thought he was above the law. This is why the bill should be law. When the state constitution says crime victims are to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect for their privacy, victims should know that these words mean something, and that they can apply to people, that they even apply to people like Kratz, Severson said. Terry Jundusa Nikolai, 46, of Racine, appeared before the committee as well. Her ex-husband is serving life in prison for beating her with a baseball bat, stuffing her in a garbage can, and leaving her to die in a freezing Illinois storage unit in 2004. Jundusa Nikolai said she was amazed at the rights the criminal justice system bestows on criminals such as her ex-husband. Victims deserve the same considerations, she said. They, criminals, have so many rights, it's almost sickening, she said. Can we at least make it a level playing field? There's a little bit more background to that, but anyway, certainly not very well how you were treated, but he's serving life in prison. He's not enjoying the right to freedom. The committee didn't vote on the measure. The bill has bipartisan support in both houses. In both houses, though, making passage likely. So that was, I think that's September the 8th of 2011. And immediately we then have, I'm getting there slowly but surely. This is October the 20th, 2011. Lawmakers pass the bill, letting victims sue prosecutors. Madison, Wisconsin, the state assembly has approved a bill, the Kratz bill, let's call it that, the Kratz bill, the Ken Kratz bill, that would allow crime victims to sue public officials who harass them. Republicans introduced the measure in hopes of discouraging prosecutors and police from taking advantage of vulnerable victims. Former Calumet County District Attorney. I much prefer when they put disgraced former Calumet County District Attorney Ken Rapist Kratz resigned last year after the Associated Press reported he had tried to strike up an affair with a woman while he prosecuted her ex-boyfriend for domestic abuse. The bill calls for public officials to treat crime victims fairly and with respect their privacy. The measure gives victims the ability to bring lawsuits if they feel those rights were violated. The measure passed on a voice vote. It goes next to the state Senate. So quickly jump. That was, what was that? That was all. I think it's like the very next day they say that it passes. Anyway, let's have a look. That's October 20th. Let's October 20th. No, we're not there yet. So let's close that one. We've got one more about the OLR, I believe, next. Let's do that. Yes, OLR. Let's put that one up. So next, the OLR finally decides it wants to do something. This is December the 1st, 2001. Disgraced former Calumet County District Attorney Ken Rapist Kratz is facing a 6-month suspension of his law license for 11 counts of alleged misconduct. But the unusual circumstances may warrant a different sanction. Told you some of them were short. And I knew we'd get to one eventually. That's it. They don't even explain what different sanctions. Never mind. Moving swiftly onwards. This is the, this is non-Kratz, but it's under the Kratz file. For obvious reasons, Stephen Avery and Ken Kratz are inextricably linked now. This is December the 8th, 2011. Stephen Avery files suit over homicide conviction. Update. Milwaukee. A Wisconsin man exonerated of rape after serving 18 years in prison, then convicted of helping kill a woman after he was set free, filed a lawsuit from prison claiming his civil rights were violated. And of course, this is just after his final appeal to the Supreme Court wouldn't be heard. Stephen Avery was released from prison in 2003 after spending nearly 2 decades behind bars for a rape he didn't commit. But in 2007, he was convicted of helping murder 25-year-old photographer Teresa Holbach. Steve, 49, filed the civil rights complaint himself November 30th in federal court in Milwaukee. He claims investigators relied on a faulty search warrant when they searched his Manitowoc County home in 2005. And he's asking for $150,000 in punitive damages. Avery said probable cause was not established in a sworn statement filed to support the search warrant, which he said had language that reflected that of a fishing expedition. Yep, that of a planting expedition. A bookcase was seized December the 11th, 2005, and Avery said there was no reason given as to why it was taken. He also claimed there was no evidence the statement was seen by the issuing judge. And I mean, surely, even Ken Kratz said, can you look past the key? He knew how embarrassing it was that it took 7 searches of that tiny bedroom to find the magic key. So Steve claimed his Fourth Amendment rights to be free of unreasonable search and seizure were violated. Named in the complaint were former Calumet County District Attorney Ken Kratz, Investigator John Diedering, Sergeant William Tyson, and Deputy Dan Kucharski, all of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Tyson actually tried to do a good job. It's Dan Kucharski that dropped the ball. Calumet County Corporation Counsel Dawn Clocko said Thursday she has not yet been served with the complaint and won't comment on pending litigation. Kratz could not be reached on his office phone, and an email seeking comment was not immediately returned Thursday. Beside the $150,000 in punitive damages, Avery also asked for nominal damages in an amount not less than $1 for every item illegally taken and any attorney and court costs that may accrue. What was it? Fassbender? He says there's upwards of 900 items that were taken. you know, and we've got bizarre things like photographs of a letter, of old tires, and you know, photos of the bones where they lay. Remains? No, forget it. During the trial in 2007, an investigator testified that a key to Harbuck's vehicle with Avery's DNA on it, with 20 times more DNA on it than you would normally have, was found on Avery's bedroom floor after another investigator shook the bookcase. Avery's attorneys at the time claimed the investigator planted the key. Kucharski supervised the search. The bookcase seizure came after the preliminary hearing, and investigators at the time said it was needed to prove the key was hidden there. And yet it didn't make it to trial. Harbuck disappeared October 31st, 2005, after going to the yard in rural Manitowoc to photograph a minivan that Steve's sister Barb had for sale through Auto Trader magazine. The jury convicted Steve of first-degree intentional homicide and being a felon in possession of a firearm, and sentenced to life in prison. 2 years before Teresa died, Steve was released from prison after serving 18 years for a rape that DNA analysis showed he did not commit. And bizarrely, he later settled a wrongful conviction lawsuit against the county for a meager $400,000 when he was asking for 36 million, and most likely would have got somewhere between 3 and 5 million. This summer, the state's appeals court denied Avery's request for a new trial. His lawyer, Susan Hagopen, filed a petition October the 6th, asking the Wisconsin Supreme Court to look at the case, but it has not yet responded. Well, we're probably still waiting for that particular thing to be responded to. Okay, one more to look at. I just like the title of this next one. Former DA says Sexton case should be tossed. Well, you know, if you're going to toss it, I suppose you need somebody that knows a bit about tossing. And I wouldn't say there's any bigger tosser on the planet than Ken Kratz. So let's carry on, see what he's got to say. See what drivel he comes up with here. This is January the 19th, 2012. Madison, a former Wisconsin prosecutor accused of trying to spark an affair with a domestic abuse victim, wants the state Supreme Court to toss a complaint against him because state regulators already dismissed the case once. Ken Kratz resigned from his position as Calumet County District Attorney in 2010 after the Associated Press reported he sent a series of racy texts to a young domestic abuse victim. The State Office of Lawyer Regulation declined to discipline him, but the office reopened its investigation, however, in the wake of the Associated Press's stories, and in November filed a complaint with the Supreme Court asking the justices to suspend Kratz's law license. Kratz argues in documents filed Thursday the Supreme Court should dismiss the complaint in part because the OLR already cleared him. In other words, because one department has already made a complete hash of it, then everybody else should. Oh yes, we get you, Ken. Okay, that's enough on that. As I say, the most interesting thing about all this is, for me, is the viciousness of when things really start to unravel for Ken Kratz, and he is facing this civil suit. And you can only imagine the anger of Kucharski and Vogel looking forward to having to give their depositions when look, it's bad, Ken Kratz sending those text messages. We know that there were far more problems than that with Kratz and his behavior. 15 people came forward with various accounts of his perverted mind, sick perverted mind. But, you know, in comparison with, you know, deliberately locking up Stephen Avery, getting him a 32-year jail sentence, and him having to serve 18 of that before being exonerated, and the fact that they had sat on the 96-95 phone call, it was not looking good. And as we discover as we go through, you know, there are certain things that these people are covered with by certain protections and insurances, but they cannot be used in some of these cases, and that's when things really do turn nasty for the people being sued. And you know, you get the sense of desperation of Kratz, and then, you know, you multiply that 100 times by what Kassura and Vogel must have been feeling. Anyway, so I'm gonna finish these. We're up to number 14. There's another 14 to go, I believe, up to 28. Yeah, I really want to do these Kratz, the fall of Ken Kratz, and then we'll get on to the the suspects, the final two, because I feel it makes more sense then. Okay, so anyway, hope you I'm glad that you're enjoying the videos, and I'll keep them coming. Okay. Also, Saturday afternoon my time, morning his time, and have a chat with Big Jeff. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, catch you all soon. Bye for now.